I want to tell you about two brothers, Carter and Colton. Same parents, same house, same Cincinnati suburb, same underfunded public school. Their dad drove a city bus for 32 years. When they both graduated and started working, they each took home roughly $3,200 a month after taxes. Fast forward to today, Carter is 46. He books last-minute flights on a Tuesday because he felt like seeing a friend in Austin. He doesn't check his account first, he just books it. Colton is 44. He makes $95,000 a year, about twice what Carter makes. On Sunday nights, he opens his banking app and does the math one more time quietly while his wife is already asleep, hoping the number changed since Thursday. It never does. $11,000 in his 401k, 22 years left on the mortgage. He hasn't taken a vacation without checking his credit card balance every other day since 2019. Same parents, same start. Colton earns more. Colton has almost nothing. This is not a story about luck or investing genius. It's a story about the one trap that has quietly destroyed the finances of every single generation since your grandparents were alive. Boomers fell into it. Gen X fell in harder. Millennials are in it right now. Gen Z is already falling in with a buy now, pay later option and free 2-day shipping. And the maddening part, most people don't feel it happening. It just feels like life. My name is Nick, and I've spent way too much time studying why some people build real wealth while others earn good money their whole lives and retire with almost nothing. If you've ever gotten a raise and felt broke 60 days later, subscribe, because that feeling is exactly what we're diagnosing today. Goldman Sachs did a survey, and the number I'm about to give you should genuinely stop you cold. 41% of American households earning between $300,000 and $500,000 a year report living paycheck to paycheck. 41%, almost half of people making up to $500,000 a year cannot absorb a financial emergency. $400,000 a year, paycheck to paycheck. That is not a math problem. That is not an income problem. That is a trap. And the trap has a name: lifestyle inflation. Here's the simple definition. Lifestyle inflation is when your spending automatically rises to match or outpace your income every time your income goes up. You get a raise. The apartment gets nicer, the car gets newer, the vacations cost more, the restaurants are better, the furniture is from somewhere that doesn't come in flat pack boxes. None of it feels like a decision. It feels like progress, but underneath, the gap between what you earn and what you keep stays exactly the same, or it shrinks. And because your lifestyle has now calibrated to your income, any disruption, a job loss, a medical bill, a transmission, becomes a crisis instead of an inconvenience. Here's what makes this trap both fascinating and infuriating. It is not new. Every single generation has walked straight into it. The technology changes, the cultural packaging changes, but the mechanism is identical. Baby boomers invented the suburban version. After World War II, the US economy exploded. GNP doubled between 1940 and 1960. Suburban population went from 36 million to 72 million in 20 years. Car ownership tripled. And with all that growth came the original keeping up with the Joneses culture. The average American home in the 1950s was around 1,000 square feet. By the 1970s, it was 1,500. Not because families got bigger, family sizes were actually shrinking. Homes got bigger because bigger became the new baseline. Every raise absorbed into a new normal. The boomers' version of the trap was neighborhood-based and physically visible. You could literally see it from the driveway. Gen X didn't just fall into the trap, they were handed a new weapon to fall in with: the credit card. After deregulation in the early 1980s, credit card debt in America exploded from $82 billion in 1980 to over $600 billion by 2000. Banks started offering cards to younger, lower-income borrowers for the first time. By the early 2000s, 5 billion pre-approved credit card offers were mailed every year, roughly $300,000 of available credit per family. HELOC borrowing grew 765% from 1999 to 2008. Gen X turned their houses into ATMs. The Gen X version of lifestyle inflation was credit-enabled. You didn't have to earn the upgrade first. You could borrow it today and worry about it for the next 7 years, which is obviously fine and not a problem at all. Millennials, and this is the one people always get wrong, didn't fall into the trap by being irresponsible. Elizabeth Warren's book, The Two Income Trap, showed that despite families earning 75% more than a generation earlier, they had 25% less discretionary income because fixed costs, housing, childcare, healthcare, student loans absorbed all of it and then some. Average student loan debt tripled in real terms from 1992 to 2022. The median first-time homebuyer age is now 38 to 40 years old. Millennials got handed the bill for structural cost explosions they didn't cause, and then got told the problem was avocado toast. And yet, this is the trap part, millennials also built the experience economy. Travel, concerts, the $180 hotel room for the bachelorette weekend nobody could really afford. Lifestyle inflation that doesn't leave furniture in your living room, it just leaves a credit card balance and a really good Instagram grid. And Gen Z is running the trap at algorithmic speed. Buy now, pay later is now used by 52% of Americans, with Gen Z leading at 59%. Nearly 40% of Gen Z BNPL users are using it weekly or more. By 2024, the global BNPL market had already hit $340 billion, and at the time, nearly 60% of users admitted they financed purchases they otherwise couldn't afford, which means roughly 1 in 5 Gen Z purchases is, I want this, I can't afford this, I'll have it delivered Thursday, and figure out the math in 4 installments. Social media has turbocharged the comparison engine in a way no previous generation faced. Your reference point used to be your actual neighbors. Now, it's an algorithmically curated feed of the top 1% of a global audience in 4K with good lighting. A comparison you literally cannot win. Now, here's the part that makes lifestyle inflation so hard to fight. If I just told you to spend less than you earn, you would nod, close this tab, and change nothing. Not because you don't care, but because 4 deeply wired psychological mechanisms make lifestyle inflation almost automatic. Understanding them is the only way to fight back. The first is called hedonic adaptation. In 1978, researchers studied 22 Illinois lottery winners and found they were not significantly happier than a control group, and actually derived less satisfaction from everyday pleasures than before. The brain recalibrates. Every upgrade you make to your life feels incredible for a few months, then it becomes normal, then it becomes the baseline. Then you need another upgrade just to feel the same. This is the hedonic treadmill. It's why the brand new car that made you feel like a completely different person in March is just your car by September. The feeling fades, the payment doesn't. The second is social comparison. Psychologist Leon Festinger established that humans evaluate their own lives almost entirely through comparison to others. Research found that higher earnings among your neighbors is associated with lower self-reported happiness, even when your own income didn't change. Your neighbor's raise makes you feel worse. Nothing about your situation changed, and researcher Juliet Shore documented how our comparison reference group shifted from actual neighbors to the top 20% of earners, first through television, now through social media. Your reference point used to be the guy 2 doors down with the slightly nicer lawn. Now it's a 27-year-old with a lifestyle brand who just posted a kitchen renovation in 4K. Good luck feeling fine about your IKEA shelves after that. The third is the Diderot effect. The 18th century philosopher Denis Diderot received a beautiful scarlet dressing gown as a gift. Within months, it made everything else he owned look shabby. He replaced his rug, his sculptures, his table, his chairs, and spiraled into debt trying to match the gown. He wrote that he had become a slave to his new possession. This is why buying one new piece of furniture makes your entire living room look wrong. One upgrade doesn't complete the picture, it raises the standard for everything in the frame. The fourth is present bias. Economist David Laibson's research found that humans dramatically overvalue immediate rewards compared to future ones. A study found 2/3 of 401k participants believed their savings rate was too low and did nothing about it. Another study found the median number of asset allocation changes made over an entire career was 0. More than half of workers reached retirement with the exact same portfolio they started with. Your brain treats future you like a stranger. You would not hand a stranger your paycheck, but that is essentially what happens every time a raise arrives and disappears into lifestyle within 60 days. Two people, both able to invest $400 a month. Person A starts at 25. Person B waits until 35. A decade of nicer apartments, better restaurants, newer cars, more weekend trips. Both invest at 8% average annual return. By age 65, Person A has approximately $1,396,000. Person B has approximately $596,000. The 10-year delay costs $800,000 in final wealth. And here's the number that really twists the knife. Person A only contributed $48,000 more in actual dollars. The extra $752,000 is just compounding. It's just time. That decade of nicer apartments and better restaurants doesn't cost $48,000. It costs $800,000. Let that land before we move on. The apartment upgrade. You're 25, you decide to move from a $1,500 a month place to a $2,200 a month place. Totally reasonable. The difference is $700 a month. If you had invested that $700 a month at 8% over 40 years, you'd have approximately $2,443,000. The actual cash difference in rent paid over 40 years is $336,000. The upgrade doesn't cost $336,000. It costs $2.4 million, not in cash you spent, in compounded wealth that never got built because it was absorbed into better closet space. Subscriptions. The average American household spends $273 a month on subscriptions, up 435% since 2018. If half of that, $136 a month, were invested at 8% over 30 years, it grows to $203,000. Over 40 years, $475,000. Most people right now could not name every subscription they're paying for. The amounts are individually tiny, collectively they are a fortune, and the raise that disappears. A 5% raise on $75,000 is roughly $312 more per month before taxes. Most people absorb it into lifestyle within 60 days. That $312 invested at 8% for 30 years becomes approximately $466,000. For most workers, every single raise they've ever received was a six-figure wealth decision made quietly on a Tuesday. The raise didn't disappear. It got converted into streaming services, a slightly nicer car, and dinners out because the week was hard. The trap doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like reward. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent over 20 years studying American millionaires for The Millionaire Next Door. Their findings were genuinely strange. 80 to 85% of American millionaires are first-generation wealthy. Most live in middle-class neighborhoods. Over a third bought used vehicles. Most never spent more than $399 on a suit. They are, in every visible sense, completely unremarkable. No gate, no Range Rover, no watch that does anything other than tell time. Here's Stanley's most devastating case study. Two men, early 50s, almost identical incomes, right around $91,000 a year. The first is a mobile home dealer named, and this is genuinely his name in the book, Bubba Richards. Bubba drives a used truck, wears the same jacket he's had for 10 years. Net worth, $1.1 million. The second is James Ford II, a corporate attorney, tailored suits, luxury sedan, house in the neighborhood with the good schools. He is, by every visible metric, the successful one. Net worth, $226,511. Same income. A $900,000 gap in wealth. The attorney spent his raises as fast as he earned them because his profession and social circle expected it. Bubba didn't, because nobody was watching and he didn't care. Stanley found that income explains only about 30% of the variation in wealth between people. Lifestyle explains the other 70%. Warren Buffett, worth over $150 billion, still lives in the same Omaha house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. Uses coupons at McDonald's. The man could buy a small country, and he genuinely cannot be bothered to upgrade his house because it doesn't make him happier. and the investment account does. Morgan Housel put it perfectly. Wealth is what you don't see. All you know about someone in a $100,000 car is that they have $100,000 less than before they bought it. The person in the 10-year-old Camry might have $800,000 in index funds. You just can't tell from the driveway. Thomas Gilovich at Cornell ran over 20 years of research on experiential versus material spending. Conclusion: things you do make you significantly and durably happier than things you own. Just anticipating an experiential purchase increases happiness. Anticipating a material purchase, zero boost, none. The couch you're about to order does nothing for you until it arrives. The trip you're planning 2 months from now lights up your brain every time you think about it. You're getting the return before you've even spent the money. Economin and Killingsworth's 2023 research found that happiness does continue rising with income well beyond $100,000, but only when additional income translates to greater freedom and security, not when it funds a more expensive version of the same treadmill. Earn more, spend more. The happiness boost cancels out. Earn more, invest more, stress less. The boost is real and compounds. The hedonic treadmill doesn't just cost you wealth, it costs you the well-being you were trying to buy in the first place. Here's the thing about willpower that every financial expert tells you to use more of. It doesn't work, not because you're weak, but because willpower is finite, and it's competing against multi-billion-dollar industries whose entire job is to exhaust it before you make a better decision. You cannot out-discipline a system engineered to beat you. You need systems that bypass willpower entirely. The highest leverage move is automating savings before you ever see the money. Shlomo Benartzi and Richard Thaler won the Nobel Prize in Economics, designed a program called Save More Tomorrow. In its first real-world implementation, savings rates more than tripled from 3.5% to 13.6% over 40 months. How? You commit now to saving more later. Every future raise automatically increases your savings contribution before you receive the higher paycheck. Your take-home never decreases. You never feel a loss. Inertia now works for you instead of against you. 78% of employees offered the plan joined. 80% stayed through 4 consecutive raises. The practical version: the next time you get a raise, before you experience the higher take-home, redirect at least half of it automatically to an investment account. You've never lived on the higher amount. There's nothing to miss. The lifestyle inflation mechanism requires that you experience the income first. Pre-commit before you experience it, and the mechanism never triggers. Second, add friction to spending and remove friction from saving. Prelec and Symester's MIT research found people pay up to twice as much with credit cards versus cash. The pain of paying is decoupled from the purchase, making spending feel effortless. People spend 12 to 18% more with cards than cash. Remove saved payment info from online shopping sites. Every extra click between wanting something and buying it increases abandonment. Add a 48-hour rule for non-essential purchases above whatever threshold feels right. The thing that felt essential Monday is optional Wednesday with startling consistency. Third, conscious spending, not deprivation. Identify 1 or 2 categories that bring you disproportionate, genuine satisfaction, and spend generously there. Cut everything else without guilt. The enemy isn't spending, it's spending on things you don't actually care about because everyone around you is spending on them, and it started to feel like the default. Fourth, audit your invisible lifestyle inflation every 6 months. Go through every subscription, every auto renewal, every recurring charge. Cancel everything you haven't actively used in the past 60 days, 20 minutes, probably worth thousands over the next decade. The lifestyle inflation from 2019 to today is sitting quietly in streaming services you opened during lockdown, gym memberships you intended to use, apps auto-renewing for $12.99 a year with zero fanfare. Not dramatic. Just money leaving your account on a schedule you set years ago and never revisited. Let me bring this back to Carter and Colton. Carter didn't earn more. He didn't get lucky. Every time his income went up, he redirected most of the difference before he could spend it. His lifestyle barely moved, his investment account did. Colton did what almost everyone does. Every raise became a lifestyle upgrade. Each one felt completely reasonable. Together, over 20 years, they added up to $800,000 in foregone wealth and a Sunday night ritual with a banking app that never shows a different number. Morgan Housel said the hardest financial skill, not the hardest math, the hardest skill, is getting the goalpost to stop moving, because the goalpost has a way of moving on its own every time your income ticks up. Automatically, invisibly, without a single conscious decision. Every generation has faced this trap in different clothes. The delivery system keeps evolving. The trap is identical. Before you click away, I want to leave you with one genuinely uncomfortable question. When did you last really look at how much your lifestyle has inflated since your last raise? Not generally, specifically. Most people watching this already know what lifestyle inflation is. Most would say they're aware of their spending, but most haven't done that actual audit since the last time their income went up. And most are a little afraid of what they'd find, and the trap runs perfectly well on that avoidance. You don't have to live like a monk. Spend generously on the one or two things that genuinely light you up. Stop spending on everything else by default. Automate the gap before you can absorb it. Let compounding do what compounding does. The trap is universal. It is not mandatory. The difference is a quiet decision, usually made before the money arrives in an ordinary week that nobody around you will ever notice, but you will in 20 years on a Tuesday when you book a flight without checking your account first. If this one hit different, subscribe. We cover this every week. Drop a comment below. Which generation do you think got hit hardest by this trap and why? I'll be reading everyone. See you in the next video.